Welcome to Backstage with Geoffrey Morrissey. I am your host, Geoffrey Morrissey. I'm joined today by Fourth Wanderers. Could you guys just take a quick second and introduce yourselves to our lovely listeners?
I'm Ben. I play guitar.
I'm Zach, and I play drums.
I'm Noah. I play the bass.
I'm Duke Green. I play the guitar.
I'm Ava, and I sing.
Well, thank you guys so much for making the time. I really appreciate it. I know this has been a little bit of a crazy tour, but you guys hail from Montclair, New Jersey. Such a great scene that's happening there. So for our listeners who may not know, tell me a little bit about what's going on in Montclair and what makes that such a special music community.
I always loved the Serendipity. They did like a monthly show. They did a monthly show that like so many great musicians played at all the time, and that kind of like helped us stay inspired and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was like a big, like all these different bands, people that were trying to be creative in Montclair would have an opportunity once a month. There'd be this old man who would put on shows primarily for kids.
Shout him out.
Ed Kareen, shouts out Ed Kareen.
Ed Kareen.
That it was for kids that went to our high school, and like so because we had this monthly show that this old guy organized, it kind of just guaranteed that there was always bands trying to start things and trying to play. So I think like that contributes a lot to.
And we've played in a bunch of bands that did Serendipities too. Like it wasn't just Fourth Wanderers. It was like a bunch of of bands.
Yeah.
Well, nice. I definitely want to see if I can go to a show in Montclair one day.
Yeah.
But you guys are in a really cool position, especially at DIY shows and then shows like tonight where you're opening for such amazing bands, Land of Talk, Girlpool. How do y'all introduce yourselves when you go out on stage? And by that I can mean like, hi, we're Fourth Wanderers, but like, how do you sort of get into the mindset of, okay, not everyone might know me here, but how do I make sure that I make a good first impression?
Oh man.
Let that.
You want to take it?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I mean, I feel like we don't really think of it like that. We just kind of like, I don't know. We try to go and really be ourselves, which sounds really corny, but like, it's just, I think we all kind of do it for each other, and we're all playing because we have fun playing with each other. And I know personally, like, I get really nervous, so whenever we're playing in front of like big crowds like this, so
we just go out
I'm
there
usually
and be
like,
nervous.
yeah, we just go up there and be nervous and
Maybe
kind of like
yeah.
laugh at each other and like mess up and everything. And
we don't have anything
yeah,
planned to say to people. We kind of just get
I
nervous
mean, yeah, and then whenever we mess up, it's kind of like part of the show, I guess. Like we have that vibe now that like we mess up and we laugh about it, and people like to see us laughing, and that's usually because we messed up. So I don't know. Yeah.
There you go. It makes sense to me. But you guys are now sort of in this really interesting world where you're sort of a pro band. So in your opinion, what's been sort of the biggest, learning curve going from just having fun to this is a way that we might be able to make a living?
I don't even know if this is a way that we can make a living.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. To make a living doing that is huge. That takes a lot. Like that would really take a.
I guess like
having
to deal with just more like business things, like having to read out and sign agreements for like venues and that sort of thing. It's just that it doesn't usually come with like the DIY shows that we've done. So having to do things like that and just sort of get organized in general with our, the band stuff that isn't the music,
It's easier though. Like it's really just easier because we have Andrew, our manager, and he just like answers all the emails now, and we just show up to the venue. He just tells us that he's so anal about everything too, and like I don't know if I can say that on the radio, but like yeah.
Yeah, he helps us a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, because before that, like I was managing the band and I was answering all the emails. I'm so bad at answering emails, and I would just like let things go, and just like they would build up, and like offers would come and go, and they would pass us by, and like it would just get like. My life was just worse back then because I was just stressed out. It was the first thing I would think of when I would wake up would be emails, and the last thing I would think of before I go to bed, and I wouldn't answer them in between those two times. So now we have Andrew, and we just kind of show up and play, which is sweet,
He doesn't mess around. He gets back to emails in like 5 minutes. Yeah, he's good. Shout out to Andrew.
And Greg. We love Greg too.
And Greg, of course. But you guys, I almost feel like it must have forced you a little bit to grow up quicker. Like we were talking beforehand, some of you have been going to class in between a run of shows, which I can only imagine. So just explain to me how that all works, because I think that, trying to get to the gym is difficult, let alone trying to keep up with studies.
Well, for example, for these 3 shows that we're playing, including this one. I had to miss 3 days of class. So like you kind of choose which is more important to you, I guess. And I don't know. I was really down, and the whole band was down as well. Like taking sacrifices to come play these shows because we just really want to play together, and go. We don't have many chances to play or to travel, and so when we get an opportunity like this, we really like to do that. But yeah, you have to like balance school and work and and this, so it's a little tough, and that's with me.
It's interesting. I think it's cool too to have the perspective that we all are lucky enough to get of like where we can go to school, but then we also sometimes get to take a break and play shows. That school's not the only thing that we have going in our lives, and like we can be able to like understand its importance and not put too much stress and like anxiety about like, oh, school's the only thing that I have to be worrying about, because there's other good things. Playing shows with my friends. Yeah.
I guess I actually never really took a break at all. I kind of just I've been student teaching music at a middle school, and we drove back from DC really late back to New Jersey, and then we drove back really late back from me and Duke, as in we, and then we drove back, So and we've done that before. I mean, we just drive back to school really late. We do that a lot. So sometimes we actually don't even really take a break. So it's just tiring, but that's I see a lot of people doing that kind of thing, so I have lots of like musician inspirations around me where they just like, no, I just like, I have a lot of like, there's a lot of people around me who just like don't sleep and like play music like a lot, so it kind of like keeps me inspired. Like a lot of people in like at like Mason Gross are just like, I know people who just like gig all night and go to like a club in the city and stay up until like 5, and then they go back to school in their classes. So I mean that keeps me going, I guess.
Well, there you go. And then you guys obviously have the Slop EP out, such a great couple of songs there. So what are you guys most proud of when you listen to that? And what's maybe one thing that you're like, oh, next time this is something that we definitely want to do better?
Well,
it's hard for me to listen to my to my own drums.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like you kind of just get numb to them, and they kind of like lose all their feelings, and you just end up like hating them. You just like kind of. I don't listen to any of our songs before, like I don't listen to any of our songs really anymore, because I just like have just after recording them, you just hate them so much because you've been listening to them day in and day out, and just like tiny different parts, like you've analyzed every different millisecond of them. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it should be less crunchy, maybe.
Less crunchy, okay.
But and on the logistical end, I was kind of like dealing with. Sorry, I've been like looking over. I've been like talking into the void. I haven't been looking into your face.
No, you're
the
totally
time,
good.
Like,
you're totally good. Don't worry.
I mean, because again, like I was dealing with like the lawyer and the labels and everyone. Like, not that they were like particularly like they were like sharks and they were out to like take me for everything I got, but it was still like stressful, like organizing everything and communicating between the lawyers and everything. So now we have Andrew, and I think that's really the biggest thing with like in terms of like planning a release, like having someone who kind of like has their shit together and can deal with all that stuff and communicate, and just we can focus on the creative end, you know. I guess that's what it's for.
There you go. People that have their shit together are always a plus. So right now it's a big festival announcing season. It feels like every city now is a festival. So let's create a Fourth Wanderers Festival. Who are we booking on that lineup? Who would you guys sort of curate at your own festival? You've been waiting for this moment.
Yeah, we just named some really. I got people I would love to play with. Let's get Noah up on this one.
Everyone throw someone on.
Honestly, I'm trying to play with SZA. I'm trying to play with Panda Bear. I'm trying to play with Ethereal from Awful Records. And I want to play with all of the Migos, all 3 of them.
All 3?
And then you book Fourth Wanderers as the headliner on that.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
That's implied.
Well, it's your festival.
And all the homies we've ever toured with would be on the show.
Solange for me, probably.
Oh, it's another good one.
Yeah, Christian McBride, great, shout out, good bass player from Montclair, shout out. He'd be headlining though.
He'd be headlining, okay.
In my mind.
I don't know. I don't know. I think anyone I'd say was really lame. I'll throw my dad on there too.
Yeah.
I'll throw my dad plays the trumpet. He's been gigging a lot, and I'm really proud of him. So he's got a spot.
Guys could become like a Front Bottoms-esque and add a brass section to every song. Well, I feel bad. I've been peppering you with questions for the past 5 or 10 minutes. So do y'all have a question for me, a question for each other, or any laundry to air?
I got a question for you, bro. No, I don't know. I don't have any questions.
What's the most memorable show, Geoffrey, that you've ever seen in this establishment, and why?
At this establishment? Oh boy. I think here I saw like the first like real punk show that I saw, which, well, punk quotations, Say Anything. I saw them and Isley here. Back when Max was doing like a rarities tour type thing, so it was like all the stuff they hadn't played for years. To be honest, I go to more shows at like the Sinclair or different venues.
We're at Rock Paradise, by the way, in case y'all were wondering.
Yeah.
Rock Paradise.
Oh, the Paradise
Rock.
Rock.
Paradise Rock.
Yeah.
I was describing the Rock Paradise within Paradise Rock.
Geologist heaven, the Paradise. Yeah. No, that I think has to be mine. But yeah, the Sinclair, I know that y'all just said you play there. That's an awesome one too. Well, perfect. Thank you all so much for taking the time. I'm going to leave you with this question. Who are you guys listening to? Who has a Fourth Wanderer's ear?
Sorry, what did you say?
Who are you listening to?
Who are you listening to?
Oh, honestly, I've been listening to a lot of Girlpool ever since we started touring with them. Yeah, they're awesome. I really am digging their stuff. Them and Alex G and yeah, those two.
Oh, just the people that I named for our Dream Festival. Yeah.
I listened to Kate Bush today because we heard them at some vegan spot, or her at some vegan spot last night. So I just like got back into her. I thought that was cool.
There you go.
I've been listening to Tom Waits recently. Zach put me up on Tom Waits, and I tried to resist it for a while, but he's an incredible storyteller, musician.
And I've been listening to Linkin Park all the time.
We actually shouted out Linkin Park not that long, like on one of our
Oh yeah, shout out to
One of-
Hybrid Theory.
one of our first
was our
interviews. We actually shouted out Hybrid Theory. We said it was our favorite album. Yeah.
That's a great album. I love that album.
Rest in peace, because it was actually before he died.
It was right before he died.
Yeah, it was right before he died. That was crazy.
Tom Waits and Linkin Park, and then add Fourth Wanderer to that playlist. Thank you all for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.